It's Travel Hacks. How do you save money, time, and stress in your travels? Bring a battery backup so you can plug your phone into the battery backup and you don't have to sit there listening to your partner snore. I feel something in my left pocket next to my hand, and the next thing I know, I'm on the ground. $45 later, I learned that that wasn't a personal item, and I was charged that extra money, and if I would have declared it up front, it would have cost me $10. Make certain that when you get to your hotel, you take one of their business cards and put it in your pocket or your wallet. You may not get that luggage for 1 day, 2 days. It could be, well, I've waited up to a week. So be prepared. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Marty Davis Show, where we turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones. I'm Marty Davis, a business lawyer, an entrepreneur, a connector, speaker, and I'm here to share with you today some important information and on kind of an interesting topic. It's travel hacks. How do you save money, time, and stress in your travels? I've been fortunate enough to travel to over 28 countries and have had some real ups and downs in the travel experience. Travel is absolutely spectacular. It's a way to connect with the world. It's an opportunity to understand it can be a little stressful. From these days of traveling since I was a teenager on my own while I was in college to as recently as 10 days ago, there are some things that I found that help me out and help us out when Michael and I are traveling. The first is getting prepared. What do you pack? A quick story. I was part of the New World Symphony here in Miami, and we had a group called the International Society. For a very inexpensive fee, we were able to travel with part of the symphony to various locations where the Arisons, the founders of Carnival Cruise Lines, would host their friends in various locations around the world. One of those trips was to Venice. My partner at the time and I decided we needed lots of clothes because there would be fancy events to go to and there would be casual walks and the weather would be changing from cold to warm to rain. So we needed an outfit for every day and maybe 2 outfits. So we arrive in Venice. And if you've been to Venice, you know that there's no cars in Venice, that you arrive from the airport and you take a boat to your hotel. Well, here we arrive with our 7 pieces of giant luggage in a boat to the hotel. We get out at the dock and they have this little old man is in this cart, and he has this cart, handheld cart, to haul all our luggage. What we didn't realize was that we had to go over a bridge, and this bridge probably had 10 or 12 steps up and 10 or 12 steps down. Lesson number 1, don't overpack. Pack as light as you can. I have a favorite color. I'm sure you all do too. Use that favorite color and mix and match things so that you can take as few of things with you as possible and they all work together. Whether it's a shirt, whether it's a sport coat, whether for the ladies a dress, a pantsuit, shorts, whatever, make them so they're interchangeable so you don't need to carry that much. Now it's so easy to carry on luggage on a plane, on a ship. And if you can do it, you don't need to worry about whether they lose your luggage, whether it's delayed in processing, or it gets broken and it's all over the conveyor belt. I will tell you, all of those things have happened to me over these 45 years of travel. And it ruins your vacation. Think about what you're packing. I always pack a couple days beforehand, or at least separate the clothes out that I think I want to take, because I put them in a separate section of my closet. And then the next day I think, oh, I don't really need this, or oh, I really need to take that. So you can whittle it down to something that is manageable and something that you're comfortable in traveling with. Don't throw everything in your suitcase at the same time. Speaking of throwing things into your suitcase, you've probably seen on Instagram whether, this is the perfect way to pack. I am certain that you could take hours packing, but if you kind of consider the idea of rolling versus folding, there's no edges. And when you roll, there's less wrinkling when it comes out. I'm wearing a linen shirt today because it's really easy, because all I had to do was take it off the hanger and sit in this seat. It didn't become a wrinkled mess. But if it's sitting in a suitcase, whether it's rolled, folded, it's going to be wrinkled. Think about what you're wearing. Think about what you bring. It's all going to make your trip so much easier. So let's talk more about preparedness and what you should bring, what you shouldn't bring. You've now probably heard about the special driver's licenses we all need to have in order to get through TSA. If your driver's license doesn't have a gold star on it, you can't use it for domestic travel in the U.S. So make certain that you have the new driver's license. A passport always works, and it's a great thing to have. But what happens if you lose it? We were in England, and the passport disappeared. If I hadn't had made a photocopy of that passport, we would have been days trying to get another one. It was so much easier going to the embassy, taking a photocopy of my passport, and getting one produced within 24 hours. It's an amazing, easy part. So make certain that you make a copy of all your travel documents. You know, we all have apps now, airlines, cruise lines, and they'll have your boarding passes on the app. So what happens when your phone dies? What happens when the app crashes? What happens if you can't get to it and there's a line behind you and you're stressed because you can't find that boarding pass for the plane, for the TSA person, or wherever you're needing to show that? If you have a paper copy of it and it's in your carry-on luggage, it's so much easier. And speaking of walking onto a plane or walking on what you need to do, you know, we have to empty our pockets. We have to get rid of all the metal, the coins, the wallets, and things like that, so it can go through that X-ray machine, whether you're TSA, pre-check, or clear. So if you have something you can put all those things in, it makes it that much easier, that much quicker. I like to carry either a suit coat with me, so I'm putting all those things in the pockets of the suit coat, or you can carry a crossbody bag, or what's called in the US a fanny pack, or in the UK they call it a bum bag. Make certain you don't confuse those things between the two countries, because something means something completely different in the UK than it means here. Anyway, have something you can put that pen, those wallets, the keys in, so it can easily be put in that container, go through the X-ray machine, comes out the other side, and it's easy, quick, and stress-free. So what else should you carry with you when you're on a trip? Let's start with credit cards. How many credit cards do you need to carry with you? Well, that's up to you, but are you going to use more than one or two? If you have an American Express card, you're going to want to bring a Visa or MasterCard, because American Express isn't taken everywhere. And if you're choosing between your credit cards, make certain that you bring the ones that don't have any foreign transaction fees, that will pay for the insurance on a rental car, because otherwise you need to come out of pocket with those numbers. It's a real savings, so pick your credit cards carefully. I always bring a little cash with me, cash from the US and local currency of where I'm going. You never know when you're going to need a tip, or you're going to get in some type of transportation that only takes cash. Most of the world takes credit cards now, but it's a stressful mess if they don't. So bring that with you. I always bring an ATM card with me too. The ATM fees outside of our country are much cheaper than credit card fees when you need cash. So you can save that money and save those fees by having an ATM card. The other thing, though, to remember is only use that ATM card for cash. Don't charge things on it, because if you have a problem with what you bought, or you have a problem with using it, there's no recourse for an ATM card. It's just like giving away cash. So keep those things in mind and pare down what's in your wallet. While I'm at home, I carry all kinds of things in my wallet that I don't need when I'm traveling. Take those things out of your wallet. One of the things that you do want to carry with you, if you have any type of cards that get you into airline lounges, there's nothing better than waiting for a plane in an airline lounge. And I use Priority Pass. It gets me into most airline lounges across the world. It's a great service, and it's free with several credit cards. Chase Reserve Sapphire is one of them. But it's a great card to have because it's free drinks, it's free food, and a nice place to sit and recharge while you're in that layover or while a plane is being delayed for whatever reason. So think about what's in your wallet. I'm a big believer in carry-on luggage and trying to get all of the things in a carry-on. You got to be careful. In some domestic airlines, there is a difference between a personal item, a carry-on, and checked luggage. And that's a size difference usually. I thought, no problem. My carry-on is small. It will work as a personal item. I'll just try and get by when I board the plane. $45 later, I learned that that wasn't a personal item, and I was charged that extra money. And if I would have declared it up front, it would have cost me $10. So know what you're doing beforehand. Know what the rules are. It saves money. If you're not traveling business or first class, and you're going overseas, you want to be comfortable as possible on the plane. And, you might want to brush your teeth before you see people on the other side after a 6, 8, or 10-hour flight. So if you're not getting one of those amenity kits in business or first class, make sure you bring a toothbrush kit with you. Toothbrush, toothpaste, maybe a little mouthwash, wouldn't hurt. Maybe a little lip balm. It gets dry in a plane. So all of those things are important. There's nothing dirtier than an airplane lavatory. And, I continually see people walking into the bathroom in a plane without any shoes on, or they're walking into a bathroom with long pants that, in case you pulled those pants down, you're going to be able to mop up the floor of that bathroom and carry it with you for the rest of the day, or as long as you're wearing those pants. A wonderful thought. So in case you're not interested in mopping the floor or, moisturizing your feet with urine from the bathroom, wear your shoes or the slippers that you're provided in the amenity kit. So think about that before you're walking around in a plane. The other thing I recommend is that the first time that you get motion sickness on a plane or on a ship, you realize, wow, Dramamine would have been really great to take before this, or wearing one of those bands or a patch behind your ear. Well, don't learn that by being sick. Bring it with you ahead of time. Your next trip could be the first time that you experience seasickness or motion sickness. And wouldn't it be great to have a remedy in hand? The little bag in the back of the seat in front of you is not a cure for seasickness or motion sickness. It's a gross thing that happens when you have no alternative. So be prepared with that. The other thing about travel is that you need to be careful where you're going. You need to have the things that you need to be with you, which may be a little money, or it may be lip balm, or, directions. Thank goodness for Google Maps. We don't need maps anymore. All you need is your phone. But what happens if you lose your phone? What happens if somebody grabs your phone, you leave it on a table in a restaurant, and you're in a country where you don't read their alphabet, or you don't really remember where you're at? Please make certain that when you get to your hotel, you take one of their business cards and put it in your pocket or your wallet, because you can always show that to an Uber driver, a taxi driver, or to the place where you're standing to say, how do I get here? I always carry my phone in my back pocket. It's where it's most comfortable for me. And it's also the place that it's easiest for someone to take. So think about putting that phone in your front pocket or in that crossbody bag that you may consider carrying. I will tell you, not everything in your front pocket is safe. I'm in New York. I'm in Times Square, probably one of my first times there. I'm walking around by myself. I have my hands, both hands in my two front pockets, because I'm thinking I will be most safe with that. And I am busy doing the thing that every tourist mistake is. I am walking around Times Square, looking at the buildings, looking at the signs. It's beautiful. The signs that they have there are incredible and huge, huge billboards and huge lighted billboards that are flashing and all that. I'm busy looking up at these, and all of a sudden, I feel something in my left pocket next to my hand, and the next thing I know, I'm on the ground. Once you realize you're on the ground, you go, huh? And my hand is still in my pocket. Unfortunately, the money that my hand was touching is no longer in my pocket. There is no one around me, and somebody made off with the money, and I never even saw who it was or saw what color clothing they were. And also, I'm on the filthy ground in Times Square in New York City. Be that as it may, there's a lot of things as a tourist you can't help yourself from doing. But one of the things is being prepared. I did have more money in my sock that day, so I was able to get back to the hotel, and it wasn't a crisis. But being prepared, thinking about some of these things ahead of time, really saves stress and some problems later on. We've talked about those extra things to take with you. They always tell you if you have medication, make certain you have that in your carry-on or in that crossbody bag. The other thing that you really may want to consider in case you do check luggage is have a change of shirt or pants or clothes in some kind of carry-on that you take on the plane with you. If you're traveling overseas and maybe you're catching a cruise someplace and you're just at that plane stop overnight, you may not get that luggage for 1 day, 2 days. It could be, I've waited up to a week for luggage, which was great because that was a 1-week trip and I was able to take home all my clothes beautifully packed and clean. Unfortunately, folks had to watch me for a full week in something that I bought at a Primark in London. I bought 2 t-shirts and 2 pairs of shorts to wear, which were very glamorous for London. But anyway, not having a change of clothes with you can be really disruptive. So think about that when you're packing that carry-on, or, maybe it's a little shopping bag with something. The other thing I'd recommend to you is, how many pairs of shoes do you need? Well, you want shoes for comfort if you're walking around. For me, that's a pair of sneakers. Well, you know how bulky sneakers are. And I don't even wear the high top fancy ones with the thick sole and the, designer label on it. But if you wear the sneakers, your more dressy shoes are probably smaller in size and take up less room in the suitcase. Also, I have learned with my partner, Michael, that if you tie your sneakers very loosely, you can slip in and out of them without untying them. And it's like wearing a pair of slip-ons. So it's a great way of getting in and out of TSA in case you're in one of those locations that still requires you to take off your shoes. You can slip in and out of your shoes, and it makes it easy, and it hasn't taken up all that room in your luggage. So tip number 28. The other thing that I think Americans are especially bad at in traveling overseas is that for some reason we've decided that we need to dress up and stand out while we travel. That's an invitation for someone that is a pickpocket. It's an invitation for someone to take advantage of you. Look like a local if you can. Blend in. You don't need to wear the diamond-encrusted watch, whether it's real or not. You don't need to wear that big jewelry while you're there because you just become a target. Blend in. Wear something comfortable, wear something casual, and look like the people that you are around. Number one, you're going to be treated better. You're going to be blend in, and you're going to feel more comfortable. I'm on a plane coming back from Las Vegas. I was there for a conference. I'm on a Chamber of Commerce board, and the National Chamber of Commerce meeting was there. And, I've used my phone a lot during the day. It's a night flight coming back, but on this particular plane, the only way to have any entertainment for that, it's almost a 4.5-hour flight back to Miami, is to, hook into their internet and play a movie on your phone or your tablet. Well, I have my phone, and I hook it up. I get all set up with their internet on board the plane, and I start watching this movie and it's all great. And, it's a little screen, but, you make do. And all of a sudden, the red light comes on. You are down to 3% battery. Well, no problem, because in my carry-on, I always carry my plug so I can plug it into the outlet in the seat. Well, I reach down, I put the thing in the plug. The outlet is so loose and so old, the plug just falls out. So I hold it there, no power, no recharging. The lesson learned on this one is bring a battery backup so you can plug your phone into the battery backup and you don't have to sit there listening to your partner snore or the woman next to you snoring and can't sleep and have nothing else to look at other than your dead phone. Always a good thing. Carry that battery backup. The other thing I was just recently reading that some battery backups are too powerful and they're not allowed on the plane. They're not allowed in checked luggage, which of course wouldn't have helped you on the plane anyway, but some are so big they won't allow them on carry-on. So look and see what those requirements are before you buy that backup battery for your phone or laptop. Other little things to take with you is I was traveling for business, going to see a client in Philadelphia. I got on the plane and I was lucky enough to be up in front and they served a breakfast and I promptly spilled some salsa from the omelet on my white shirt because I'm wearing a tie, white shirt. It's a turnaround trip. I've got no other clothes with me. I've got nothing else to wear except this wonderful, beautiful tie. I look great in the suit. It was a nice suit. However, no matter how good your suit is, if you have a big red stain next to the tie, you lose some of your credibility and authority and, looking nice. So my tip from that point on was I always carry one of those tied sticks, and you just unscrew the top, you dab it on there, and you can take a little rinse. It takes would have taken that stain out, and it's happened to me time and time again. Not necessarily on the way there, but on a trip. And, lots of times you can wear things a couple times. You may not be as interested in wearing it if it's got a big old stain on it from curry in India or wherever you're at. It's a great tip and it works. It's so much better than the soap that's at the hotel or shampoo. The other big problem in carry-on luggage is that you've got your toiletry kit. Sometimes you may bring shampoo with you or some kind of lotion or any kind of liquid. If it hasn't happened to you yet, it will. One of those containers of liquid will break, or the top loosens, or it's got one of those flip things and the flip comes up. You have no idea how it happens, but it happens. I had the back end of it, those little toothpaste containers that the dentist gives you. I always keep those, so I use them on short trips. On the bottom of it, it's folded over like an envelope. I was on one trip where the bottom end of that, for some reason, opened up, and I had toothpaste everywhere. It's not easy to get out. It's a mess. It's, if you've got something that's liquid, or even, quite frankly, a paste or a gel, either put it in a plastic bag that's a zip on it, or make certain that the toiletry kit that you have is watertight so that if it does go and something breaks, it goes in your toiletry bag and it isn't a big problem. The other part is, I'm told every man should wear cologne every day, no matter what you're doing. Cologne leaks out beautifully from those little tester kits that you get, with the little plastic top on them. Bad news unless they're in plastic container, because I had one that, unfortunately, I had from Joe Malone. They have this beautiful scent of roses that's wonderful on women and smells like my grandmother. But when it gets all over your shirt and you need to wear that shirt, you smell like, a bouquet of roses and people are looking at you like, where's your grandmother? You must have left her someplace. So tips. Anything that can leak in a plastic bag. The other thing is, in that toiletry kit, make sure you have a Band-Aid. We cut ourselves all the time. You get a blister, you have one thing or another. Where do you go to get a Band-Aid? Maybe the front desk at the hotel will have it. Maybe first aid in the cruise line will have it, but you got to get there. If it's in your bag, it's easy. Bring a Band-Aid. So you get to the room. There's 3 things I always do in every room. The first thing I do is go to the bed. I take the bedspread off. I look at the corner of the mattress. If I have little black dots in the corners and seams of the mattress, you know that place has bed bugs. In South Florida, we have a rampant problem of bed bugs. They have the same in Dallas. If you look in certain locations, bed bugs are really common. And so you want to make certain that they're not in the room that you're sleeping in, because if they are, you'll have guests in your luggage and they come to stay at your house when you get home. And if you've ever had a bed bug problem, which I haven't had, my sister did, they have to raise the temperature of your house to such a level so that they die. And it has to be in the 80s, and it's a big problem. So just check it first. The second thing I do is I take a photo of the minibar, not the outside door, the inside door. That same hotel in Las Vegas said, if you don't want to be charged for anything in the minibar, don't touch it. Because if you touch anything in the minibar, it automatically charges you. I get up to the minibar, I open the door, ready to take my picture, and there's an empty space. So by taking that picture and showing them that, I wasn't charged for that. I believe it was a $27 bottle of Fuji water. The last thing I do, and maybe this is a little anal retentive, but I always seem to come home with a cold after I'm at a conference. So I always have an antiseptic wipe. I wipe off the door handle. I wipe off the surfaces that you usually touch, the TV remote, the doorknobs and things like that, because it's just one extra measure. It may not save much, but it's worth the 2 seconds that it takes. My last tip about the hotel room, when you get in there, turn the water on in the sink and the shower. Turn it to hot. Make sure that you get, in case you want a hot shower. If you only take cold showers, it's perfect. But in case they don't have hot water, you find it out early on, as opposed to after you've got shampoo on your head or your face is covered in soap and you're trying to rinse that off with a lovely cold shower. Those are some of the tips that I've learned really by mistakes. And there's many more, and we'll probably have another episode about this. Preparedness for trips really gives you freedom. It gives you freedom to deal with the unexpected that comes along in a trip. If you don't have to worry about the basics, getting lost in taking a tour and finding out new experiences in a city that you've never seen before, or getting lost and having to spend extra time in the countryside of France, or in Oregon along the coast, or in Florida walking along the beach. Those are adventures that you get to talk about and are pleasant. Losing your passport and not having a copy, losing money because you put it all in one place, taking too many clothes so that you are overburdened by your luggage, are all sad things that you are going to remember and will spoil the trip and will spoil the memory of the trip. So be prepared. It gives you freedom. It changes those stumbling blocks into stepping stones. I'm Marty Davis with The Marty Davis Show. We'll be back with more travel tips, and I look forward to seeing you again.